single need of yours, whatever that might be, whether it be news, in-depth analysis, entertainment, music, what have you, even indigenous programs. So we're here to satisfy whatever needs that you might have as you turn on your radio this morning. Again, a lovely morning to you. My name is Sage BABALOLA. As at this time, the first thing we do, of course, is to look at the news. Information dissemination is a very important part of what we do here on the station. And of course, the best way to do that is to review the papers. What exactly have the editors of the different papers put together for us to discuss this morning? I guess we'll find out as we proceed into the show called Trends in the Papers. As the name depicts, basically, we're having conversations about trending stories across our dailies. Sage BABALOLA is my name. This is not a conversation I would be having by myself, as I now have joining me virtually FUAD SAHEED, and FUAD, of course, will proceed to give us analysis to the stories that I will reel out this morning from the papers. FUAD, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I mean, adjusting to our new reality in the country. Adaptation. I think that's one trait of Nigerians that makes us just somehow, survive whatever is thrown at us. I wish it wasn't like that, but fine. Let me ask you too, how are you? Because I don't think anybody asks you, because everybody thinks fine as money. So fine, how are you?
Well, I'm good. We're trying to manage, like you just said.
Right.
We're facing a new reality. I think that's the spirit. That's how to encourage Nigerians. Just have to face it headlong and hope for the best.
Right. Okay, well, our dailies are here. Vanguard, the Punch newspaper, Guardian, and The Nation. In no particular order, let's begin today's conversation with Vanguard newspaper. As expected, the top story is still on subsidy removal and all the controversy that have trailed this particular action. Now, subsidy, NLC, TUC suspend strike. Riders to this particular story, we have Labour and the federal government to meet again on June 19, 2023. Federal government, TUC and NLC to establish joint committee to review proposal of any wage increase or award an established framework. We have federal government, TUC and NLC to review World Bank $800 million loan and implementation. Those are the riders to the story. So we'll just go on ahead and look at all the many aspects of the story, and we'll review it one after the other. Now, the Abuja organ, the Abuja Organized Labour, made up of the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) and the Trade Union Congress (TUC), yesterday agreed to suspend its planned strike, scheduled to begin tomorrow, to enable further negotiations with the federal government. Now, the Monday's meeting and resolution was attended and signed by Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, that's the Chief of Staff to the President, Festus Osifo, President TUC, Nuhu Toro, Secretary General TUC, Joseph Ajero, President NLC, amongst other people. Now, there was a meeting. The first meeting, of course, ended in a deadlock. They were unable to reach any concrete resolution per se. But then there was another meeting, and which the NLC did not attend. That was on Sunday when federal government met with the organized union body. But so far so good. What we've been able to extract from this is that I think it was following a court injunction, the labor court, I believe, that asked that the labor union suspend the strike to give room for further negotiations. It would seem like the NLC and the TUC have decided to obey the court and create room for further negotiation, although their different papers are reporting different things. But since we're reviewing the Vanguard, let's focus on what they're telling us this morning. FUAD, many things have been laid on the table, including an increase in minimum wage to about 200,000 naira. FUAD, what do you think about the decision of the NLC and the TUC to suspend the strike? And also, what do you think about some of the demands that they've asked for? 200,000 naira minimum wage, subsidy on food and transportation, amongst other things. Are these things actionable? And do you think the suspension of the strike maybe has set us back, maybe 50 yards or 50 miles in our ability to negotiate, or the NLC's ability to negotiate with the federal government?
Well, I think we have to situate the issue properly.
Right.
The NLC, as it is now, basically is negotiating for its members. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
The NLC, TUC, and other organized labor unions are negotiating with the federal government on behalf of their members. I think we need to situate that properly.
Right.
And I think their members, if you look at it very well, make about maybe 40% or less than 50% of the working population in Nigeria.
Yeah.
A lot of Nigerians who earn, living from personal businesses and all of that are not members of this union. So who is going to negotiate for them? Who is going to speak for them now? If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, those in the informal sector and what have you.
The people in the informal sector, private sector business owners and workers who are not members of this organized labor union.
Right.
Who is speaking for them at this time? Who is negotiating for them at this time? So we need to put that on the table. Now, to the demands of the NLC, TUC, and other labor unions, I see a situation where the level of the government and the organized labor unions were not realistic. Because all of the demands, I ask myself, if the TUC, for example, is demanding for an increase from 30,000 to 200,000 naira, where would the money come from?
I don't know.
Because I like to, because again, in going into these negotiations, there are things I would have loved to actually for you.
FUAD. Hello? Oh, we lost FUAD. We're going to try to get him back on the line now. But as we're trying to get him back, I think I'll just take the opportunity to read out to you some of the demands of TUC and NLC. So some of the demands of TUC is that the federal government and the NLC, the TUC, they are to review the World Bank finance cash transfer and the palliative that was proposed for low-income earners. The federal government, the TUC, and the NLC are also supposed to revive the natural gas conversion program that was agreed with the Labour Congress in 2021, and this is the conversion of petrol powered cars or PMS powered cars to gas and what have you. There's also the Labour centers and the federal government. They are to review the issues that are hindering effective delivery in the education sector and pose solutions to the problem. They're also asking the federal government to establish a framework for the completion and rehabilitation of the nation's refinery. They're also asking the federal government to provide a framework for the maintenance of road and the expansion of rail networks across the country. And all other demands submitted by the TUC to the federal government will be assessed by the joint committee of the NLC and the TUC. FUAD, are you here now?
I'm with you.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly read out all of the demands of TUC and NLC, including the 200,000 minimum wage.
Now, Sage, there was a question you asked me when we started the show, that all of these demands from the NLC and TUC, are they actionable? And I'll answer you this way, because you just read out the demands now. Yeah. All of the demands now, how actionable are these demands? If we look at a country currently running on a budget deficit of over 11 trillion naira, if we look at a country that its debt currently stands at over 7 trillion naira, how actionable are these demands when the country currently services its debt with about 90% of our revenue? How actionable are these demands when more than 50% of our crude oil export is not accounted for? How actionable are these demands when we run an over-bloated system of government that is so expensive and lacks any form of accountability? How actionable are these demands when the level of corruption in the country is at almost the highest ever that we have ever known? So ask yourself, the reality is that, look, there's no way out of where we have found ourselves now as a nation. Because our actions and inactions, as far as corruption is concerned, lack of accountability, and all of that is what has put us in this mess that we have found ourselves. And the sad part is that, look, I kept saying, before the election stage, I was asking, are we asking the right questions? Because the reality was that one of these guys was going to become president anyway. Yeah. Whether it was going to be Atiku, Peter Obi, or Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I knew that one of them would eventually emerge as president. And look, they all put this thing on the table. In fact, all of the presidential candidates had agreed that we were going to remove subsidy. But did we engage them enough? Were there enough questions to say, look, how do you want to do it? What will you be doing for the ordinary people? The untold aspect that the removal will bring, how do you want to resolve it? Now, what you have between the Labour and the government and whatever joint committee they are going to set up will just be mere promises. I will do. At the end of the day, with the current situation of the country, our economic reality, I doubt that we can actually meet two of all of the demands that you listed now. Let us start with 200,000 naira increase of minimum wage. Where would that money come from? Where?
Oh, borrow it.
Borrow it. Okay, we'll start borrowing again. So the borrowing that we are running away from, we'll go back to it. On I keep referring to the political roundtable we had on Sunday. And Adiola Yusuf said something, he's an energy expert, covering that sector here. That look, don't buy the narrative of our politicians or people in government. The removal of subsidy will save us some money that we cannot channel into other sectors. And what he said practically is that look, there's even no money to save because we have been borrowing to pay. And that basically what subsidy will help to do is maybe create some level of accountability in the oil sector, create a more robust downstream sector, and then maybe going forward we'll now begin to show up some more revenue. But as it is, there's even no money to save now because we have, look, the NNPCL just told the president that, the government is owing the NNPCL 2.8 trillion naira.
Yeah.
So, you see, what we have said is that, look, I guess the labor is confused, really, because, again, you have a labor that is looking at the reality of what we have and is completely confused about, seeking the interest of his members and also looking at the overall good of the country. Because, again, shutting down the country at this time would have far-reaching consequences on the economy of an economy that is already fragile.
Right.
So you have a situation where they are looking at the interest of their members and also looking at the overall good of the country. And I'm sure that's why they are a bit undecided on what to do. Forget all of the industrial code injunctions and all of that. The reality is that the labor is completely confused. Unfortunately for the government, there's nothing they can put on the table as we speak. I'm telling you that the government knows there's nothing to put on the table. Because basically what they are telling Nigerians is that, look, just bear the pain and the brunt. We'll find solutions to it. As I speak to you, they don't have any solution in mind. And it's understandable. If you look at where we're coming from and what we have been doing with the resources of the country. Unfortunately, as Nigerians begin to bear the brunt of subsidy removal and the suffering of subsidy removal, it will never affect the political class. You know what I say?
Why?
They will still collect their allowances.
Right.
They will still put their hands and dip their hands in our treasury. They will still get all of this humongous pay, award, white elephant project, do the same thing that we have done with our government. Nothing will change at the level of government. The reality is that as they continue to tell Nigerians to tighten their belts, they are going to get more over bloated with their waste because they will still do the normal things that we have known of our government and nothing will change. So what I will tell Nigerians is for us to get prepared. As individuals, we have to decide how we want to survive this time. If you are expecting anything to come from government, I tell you, are just joking. Because there's even nothing to put on the table.
FUAD.
That's the reality of Nigeria at this time. So individuals should decide how they want to survive this period, and God help us all.
FUAD, but what is the alternative? We cannot maybe encourage the unions, the labor unions, to shut down the economy by going on strike. We also cannot expect from the government to provide anything of an immediate relief at this moment. Even in the medium term, I don't really know what they can come up with to help anybody. So what exactly are we supposed to do? All we can do basically is accept this, that's all, and trust that they will do the right thing. Is that really the only option that we're left with?
Well, I've been seeing supporters of government and people close to government coming up with all manner of arguments or alternatives. Some of them are saying that, look, import mass transit buses and begin to make it available to Nigerians. Where is the money to bring all of those buses in? And where are the buses going to operate from? Who are going to be in charge of those buses? How do you run that kind of structure? I've also seen people saying, okay, let us subsidize transportation. How do you do that, really? How do you subsidize? Because, again, we are not so organized in terms of our public transportation system.
Right.
You can only talk about subsidizing transportation if, for example, we have mass transit arrangements currently on ground. If you have our rail tracks running, maybe we have our trains running, we have our bus rapid transit running across our different cities. Subsidizing transportation will only be easy when you have an organized public transportation system.
Right.
Okay, are you going to subsidize the yellow buses? How? Where?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Then you also, so the question again is that, look, let us even say we decide to now subsidize education, and the health sector and all of that. I still say that means we are removing subsidy from one sector and turning it to another sector. So the question would be, are these same Nigerians who messed up the oil sector not the same Nigerians that will manage subsidy in other sectors? Can we trust them to do the needful? Because whatever structure we put in place, it will still be managed by the same set of politicians.
Right.
Who, the same elite, the same business class who messed up the oil sector. So that's why I say that, look, see, as far as I'm concerned, I will only talk to Nigerians, individual Nigerians. That look, the reality of the country at this time requires that you look inward and find a way to survive this period. I'm sorry, that's just the reality.
Right. Survive doing the right things, though. Do you understand? People survive doing the right things. Management, cut down costs.
Doing the legitimate things.
Of course,
you know,
cut
the
down
right
costs. Like FUAD said a few days ago, no guy eats catfish pepper soup, okay?
And shedding weight.
No guy, please. Let's just cut down how much money you're spending. Anyway,
if you used to do point and kill,
don't do point
and
kill. Don't do point and kill. Hey, so go buy shower in the market. Anyways, you can get more information on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's move forward to more stories here. We do have another one here. SPV saga, court declines to order Atiku's arrest, fines Keyamo 10 million naira. I initially wanted us to look at another story first, but let's get through this. SPV saga, court declines to order Atiku's arrest, fines Keyamo 10 million naira. I will appeal judgment, says Keyamo. That's the writer to that particular story. Now, the Abuja division of the Federal High Court yesterday dismissed the suit seeking to compel anti-graft agencies in the country to arrest and prosecute the former vice president and candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in the recent presidential election. The court, in a judgment delivered by Justice James, held the suit, which was filed before it by the immediate past Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo. So Justice Omotosho read Festus Keyamo's letter, and Festus had asked the EFCC, the anti-graft agencies, basically, he had given them 72 hours to investigate Atiku Abubakar. And so the court is saying that, first things first, you do not have the authority to demand that anti-graft agencies investigate certain individuals, especially giving them a timeline of 72 hours. And so Justice Omotosho went on ahead to dismiss the suit and also fine Festus Keyamo 10 million naira in favor of Atiku and the ICPC, which had separately prayed the court to push punitive measures against him. So FUAD is still all of the back and forth, the electoral litigations and what have you. So we're seeing the courts declining a lot of cases, throwing out a lot of cases. A lot of cases don't have merit, adjournment and what have you. And the most recent is this one, where Festus Keyamo asks that Atiku Abubakar be arrested, right? And the court has said that it lacked merit, you don't have evidence, and you're asking anti-graft agencies to investigate him within 72 hours, and the court should immediately, take care of the situation. Well, he's been asked to pay 10 million naira, and the case has been thrown out.
Most of these cases during the elections were just merely hot air. When Festus Keyamo brought up this particular case, remember, against Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, instructing or maybe demanding from the EFCC, get him arrested and prosecute him on a particular allegation of a guy that was said to be a whistleblower who was actually leaking some audio messages and all of that. I knew that it was just all political and it was going to lack all of this merit. And what the court is trying to do, it will discourage an attempt by people to abuse the court process or waste their time with frivolous cases. Festus Keyamo is a senior advocate of Nigeria. I guess all he did at that time basically was just hot air, maybe to roughen the camp of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. At that time there was a lot of propaganda, a lot of misinformation and all of that at that time. So I guess the case was brought up basically to just cause a bit of panic at the camp of the PDP and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I knew that the case really lacked all of the merit. And that's what the court is saying, to the point that they are even finding him to pay 10 million naira.
Yes.
But he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. He works within the chambers of the law. He understands what the law says. He has the right to appeal. And since he has said he will appeal, we'll wait for him to appeal. But again, I think that, look, what the court is trying to do is to ensure that, look, follow cases are not brought before it to waste his time. I think the court basically is just sending that kind of message that, look, we need to get serious here with our judicial process.
Right. So the court had even said it that technicalities will not even be accepted here. Get straight to the point. We don't want you, using technicalities as the basis of your argument. There's no time. And like you said, there's 180 days for all of these matters to be resolved. So it makes sense that the court is trying to, minimize the amount of cases that lack merit. So page 9 of Vanguard newspaper is where you get details of that story if you're interested. Sad one here. We're remembering the Owo attack. It's reported here, Vanguard newspaper, page 7. The headline, Owo attack. Survivors groan. Families of victim relieve sad experience 1 year after. The Catholic Church reopens parish. Families of the victims murdered a year ago by terrorists at the St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, have continued to recount their sad ordeals and experiences. It will be recalled that no fewer than 41 worshippers, including children and the aged, were murdered during a morning mass by the terrorists. The killers also threw dynamite inside the church, aside shooting the worshippers at close range on June 5th, 2022. And many victims were severely injured. Others are still nursing their wounds and shuttling between their homes and specialist hospitals. FUAD, are you here?
I'm with you.
Okay, yeah, we lost you for a few seconds there. So it's 1 year since the Owo attack or Owo massacre, as I would like to describe it. That story really took the country by storm. The fact that in broad daylight we had bandits or terrorists, let's call them, let's use the right nomenclature because that's really what they are, stormed a place of worship. They killed, a little over 41 people. And according to this
42.
report, and according to this report, there are people that are still actually having to go to specialist hospital because of the severity of the wounds that they injured. This is even for physical injuries. How about those that lost pretty much every member of their family? Because there's a victim account here, a particular Miss Stella, who lost her entire family, both husband and children, and she's describing a hard time that she's still having even after 1 year. And it's unfortunate for what a number of arrests were made, at least I remember that, but I don't know if they were convicted. I don't know what came out of that. I don't even think the papers have reported anything regarding the arrests that have been made even after 1 year. FUAD, what would you like to comment on this?
Well, it's unfortunate things. Very, very unfortunate. It's a very sad one. When this happens, in a war, again, we talk about, the issue of people who lost people and all of the physical trauma. Right. There are people that may never recover from this stage. Because again, if you lose all your family members in that manner, it will only take the grace of God for you to recover from that kind of psychological trauma. And it's unfortunate that, look, when this thing happened, if you remember, there was an unfortunate back and forth between the Ondo State governor and the federal government on what actually happened. While the Ondo State governor was pointing fingers at, terrorists and militants from the Sahel who had infiltrated Nigerians as the one who perpetrated the crime. The federal government was so quick to begin to make excuses on those that perpetrated the crime without any form of investigation. So at that initial stage, the issue of the massacres was already being politicized. And very unfortunate. And at that time, the precedent for us not to do the right thing to arrest the culprits had been set. And that's why I'm not surprised that up till now, because one of the arrests we saw, remember that there was a time Amoteku arrested some people.
A few people.
And nothing happened. We didn't hear anything again because Amoteku cannot even prosecute. The best Amoteku can do is to arrest and hand over to the police. As we speak, there are no records of any official arrest made on those that perpetrated that crime. It is very, very unfortunate. The question you may want to ask me is that, are we saying that we don't have a security structure that can apprehend the perpetrators of that crime? I said no. But the problem is, where is the willpower to do the right thing? Are we sure that we are committed to really apprehending people who commit crimes like that and punish them? Because a lot of the killings that have happened in Nigeria, whether in Owo, in Zamfara, Niger, in the east, in the southwest, have gone unpunished because of lack of willingness to do the right thing. I say that thing. And until we have the willpower, the commitment, and we are deliberate about fishing out people who commit crimes like this and punish them, nothing will change. I think on the political roundtable, on Sunday, the 4th of June, it was 27 years since Kudirat Abiola was murdered here in Lagos. And on that day, we did a roll call of several political killings that nothing has happened about. We talked about Funshaw Williams. We talked about Alfred Iwani. We talked about Bola Ige. We talked about Dipo Dino. A lot of high-profile Nigerians who have been gruesomely murdered without any closure to what happened with their death. And the same goes for all Nigerians who have been killed. I think we did a roll call the last time of how many Nigerians have been killed in the last 8 years without any form of closure. So I say that until we get people in government who are committed to arresting perpetrators of crimes like this and punishing them, nothing will change. Very, very unfortunate thing.
Very unfortunate indeed. In fact, what you've said, you seem to be on the same page with the president, Bola Tinubu. It's a different headline, but then he says that counter-terrorism not backed by intelligence is of absolutely no use. He said yesterday that any counter-terrorism measure that is not backed up by knowledge and intelligence will be of no use to the nation, which is something you've always emphasized, FUAD, that as much as we are arming our security agents, as much as we're educating them on the right thing to do, it's also important that we invest in intelligence gathering and have the right information so that whatever strategy we have to counter terrorism is actually one that can tackle the problem. Because if you don't have information, I don't even know how you can come up with a constructive plan.
You see, the most important thing is this: gather all the intelligence in the world, get all the information in the world. What about the willingness to do the right thing? What do you do with the information?
Right.
The way about you see, are we saying that look, our intelligence community when it comes to our security structure don't have enough intelligence about what is happening? Yes, I agree that in the 21st century, counter-terrorism measure cannot work by buying trucks and vehicles and putting AK-47 in the hands of men to begin to run around the country. Because it would not really work. It's about intelligence gathering. But when you gather the intelligence, what then do you do with the information? It's also a very big question we need to ask ourselves. All the intelligence gathering, look, we've arrested a lot of people in this country. See. Are we going to forget so easily what happened at the Kuje prison? The breach in security happened at the Kuje prison. Are we saying there was not enough intelligence that prison was going to be breached by terrorists? What about response time when things like this happened?
Right.
People came into a city on broad daylight and killed 42 people worshiping in a church. They left the city without any form of response. Nobody was on their trail. So we need to ask ourselves, really, is it about intelligence gathering or about the willingness to do the right thing?
Big question. Well, you can get more information here, page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper, if you'd like to read details of the 1 year. I even feel wrong calling it anniversary, but then that the because I'm looking for the right word of the Owo massacre. You can read more details, even the victim account is all in there. There's one here: Presidential Tribunal, Obi tenders result of 8 more states in evidence. This is basically just the Election Petitions Tribunal that is ongoing. Witnesses have started to speak. The different individuals involved in all of this, of course, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and the APC as well. That's the ruling party. Everybody has started providing their evidences and what have you, and Peter Obi so far has provided results of 8 more states in evidence. Well, it is in court, and well, like FUAD would say, let's not preempt the court, or how do you say that? Anyways, so page 29 is where you get details if you're interested in that story. We have here 10th National Assembly, why court stopped arrest of ex-governor Yari. Let's look at this. It's on page 8. Okay. The Abuja division of the Federal High Court yesterday issued an interim order restraining key anti-graft agencies in the country from arresting the former governor of Zamfara State, Senator Abdulaziz Yari. Specifically, Justice Donatus Okorowo barred the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, from arresting or detaining Senator Yari pending the hearing and determination of the suit he lodged before the court. So apparently he approached the court for protection. That's what is in the papers. I just don't want to read verbatim because of our time. He had approached the court for protection because the key anti-graft agencies had been on his trail, inviting him to ask questions about his administration. Right. So we're talking about former governor Abdulaziz Yari. That's former Zamfara State governor, by the way, Abdulaziz Yari. FUAD, if you remember, when the whole saga of the former accountant general Idris, right, when he was arrested for the 80 billion naira fraud, his name came up a lot, right, and the investigation was going on. We still don't know the outcome of that investigation, by the way, but then he had approached the court for protection, and now the court has asked that anti-graft agencies, they cannot arrest him, they cannot detain him, they should just stay off his case. FUAD.
You know, this, if you look at the headline, 10th National Assembly.
Yes.
And I'm wondering why we're politicizing this particular report.
Well, they're saying that the anti-graft agencies wanted to detain him so that he will not be able to participate, in that let me call it a competition.
Who is saying that? Is it the one telling the court that?
The papers that apparently there were plans to arrest him and detain him so he will not be able to participate in the forthcoming.
I say, who is saying that?
I'm trying to find.
If Abdulaziz Yari, the former governor of Zamfara State, has a case with the EFCC, let us put that as a case of an anti-graft issue. His political exploit, because he's one of the people that wants to become Senate president.
What? He's the one saying that. Now, the governor who is currently aspiring for Senate presidency sought an order from the court restraining the respondent from arresting and threatening to arrest him in order to prevent him from participating in the proclamation of the president. Yes, he's the one saying that they want to arrest him so he can't participate.
When he has gotten an interim injunction from the court that the FCC should not arrest him until the case is determined and they listen to his plea. And prayers. So that's what the court has said. But I just laugh, again, it's easy for our politicians to whip up sentiment and raise some of these issues. Again, the sentiment is always to look at issue of ethnicity or political weak hunting and all of that. The reality is that Abdulaziz Yari has been on the watch of the EFCC for God knows how long. But again, we need to ask ourselves again, why now? Why is the EFCC asking now? So it makes it easy for him to say, it's because of his political exploit. It's because he wants to become Senate president, and they don't want him to contest. That's why they're after him now. But I'm saying that, look, yes, he has gotten a court injunction. He has been lucky, or he's lucky that he has been able to, merge, politics with this particular case. But the reality is that a lot of these guys, apart from issue of politics and all of that, have cases with the EXC.
Right.
And we have to be careful to begin to lump these things together. But again, we wait to see what happens. If he's going to contest, if he wins, fine. And then, of course, after the court hears him, we'll also see what happens afterwards. But the reality is that, look, again, we need to question the operations of our anti-graft agencies too, the timing and all of that. But also, we have to be careful to buy into some of the sentiments of our politicians when it comes to them accounting for what they did in office.
Right. Well, you can get more information on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper, and that's it for all the headlines on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. I've been having a conversation with FUAD SAHEED. FUAD has been helping us with analysis and explanations too, and providing us with more details about some of the headlines that I have been dishing out since we began the show. So we're moving now to the Punch newspaper. The top story is still on the subsidy removal. NLC kicks as court stops strike. Police warns hoodlum. Labour faults interim order. Bank aviation workers join planned strike. IG orders police commissioners to prevent breakdown of law and order. Whilst I was talking to you about the report, in the Vanguard, we're being told that they have decided to suspend the strike pending further negotiations. But here on the front page of the Punch, we're being told that NLC is saying we didn't get it. The letter was served when there was nobody at the office, so we don't have that particular letter. So, yeah, that's why I was like, I really don't know what until maybe we should wait for an official statement from the labor union. Yeah. So
I think there was a breaking news on TV yesterday that the NLC and TUC have shelved their strike action till June 19th.
Yes.
Which is the day the historical court will be hearing the cases brought before it by the federal government against the labor union. So we have too many information out there. I think some of them may be confusing. But say ultimately, I'll say it again, it's still about ordinary Nigerians now. Whether the strike happens or not, whether the federal government is able to use legal instruments to stop labor from going on strike or not, the reality is that Nigerians should find a way to take care of themselves. And that's just a fact, really. We're going to have a lot of back and forth. We're going to have, there are people who are even bragging that the president understands how to divide the labor union. No, he's going to succeed in not allowing them to go on strike. I don't laugh. The reality is we are all in it together. We're going to buy the same rice. We're going to enter the same public transportation. We're going to buy fuel at this. In fact, like somebody said on our show yesterday, there's no filling station selling for APC, PDP, or Labour Party members. It's the same. So when I see people trying to justify some of these things and the president, I just shake my head. Right. Again, I tell ordinary Nigerians, find a way to survive the period legally.
Well, you can get more information on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Aviation workers and bankers, by the way, are solidly behind the labor union. They're saying that they're just waiting for the directive. If the strike goes on, they would also be joining. So if the strike proceeds as planned, you might not be able to access the bank. You might have a difficult time also with flights would be grounded. So let's wait and see what happens at the end of the day. Meetings have been, I think, adjourned till June 19th. So after their meeting June 19th, we can see what's going to come out of that. Again, page 2 of the Punch newspaper is where you'll find more details. Let's move now to this particular story here. It still has to do with the Elections Petitions Tribunal, the witnesses being brought forward. We have Atiku Abubakar, who presented a witness via his legal team, of course, and the witness says that he witnessed the poll fraud, and they're talking specifically about Rivers State, that he witnessed poll fraud and manipulation. FUAD, if you know, there was a lot of controversy around the amount of votes that came out of Rivers State during the presidential election. We analyzed it here at the studio. I think about 231,000 votes for the APC and about 88,000 for the PDP, and many said that that's a lot of numbers coming from Rivers State for one particular party. And now we have a witness as presented by the PDP and the flag bearer of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, saying he actually did see this manipulations happening. Is there really anything to analyze here, since it's just a witness?
I don't want to preempt the court.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put any analysis out there that would seem to suggest I'm trying to argue for any of the parties in this case.
Yes.
So we just have to wait. We have a timeline of 180 days for these cases to be concluded. And I think the best that we can do is what we're doing. Give the reports as we're giving it, and allow the court to hear these cases, look at these evidences, and then make a decision. But again, I think we need to remind ourselves and also remind Nigerians that look, court cases are not won on emotions and sentiments. You have to be able to back your case with enough evidence, what they call substantial evidence. And as the court have said, that look, they are going to be judging these cases not on any form of technicality, but on evidence that these parties are able to bring before it. Because again, this is an election matter that concerns the national interest of the Nigerian people. And so they won't be entertaining any form of technicality in taking a decision of this case. So I think we should just calm down, let all the parties bring all of their evidence, make their cases, argue in court, and then wait for the final verdict of the court.
Of course. Thank you, FUAD. Let's page 30 of the Punch newspaper is where you get more details, by the way. Let's move very quickly now. FUAD, there's more information regarding Nigeria Air, your favorite subject of the quarter, I guess. So I don't have come. Anyways, Nigeria Air reps grill aviation justice ministries officials today. So reps grill aviation justice ministries officials today. The House of Representatives Committee on Aviation has rescheduled its investigative hearing on the controversial launch of Air Nigeria, Nigeria's national carrier, by the last administration, Muhammadu Buhari. The Buhari administration had failed to deliver Nigeria Air after 8 years over the controversy that surrounded the national carrier. The federal government had boycotted domestic airlines under the aegis of the Airline Operators of Nigeria and signed a deal with Ethiopian Airlines to float the Nigeria carrier. The AON had consequently dragged the government and its agencies before a court to stop the process. And we have taken delivery of the carrier, by the way. But the House
Where
has...
is the plane? Where is the carrier?
Even though,
Who delivery?
FUAD, if
Where is the carrier now?
everybody have shown us that we have, that's what I mean by making delivery. We have, and I have put Nigeria Air on the body. Even though that
Where
the
is
registration number.
Would you know the whereabouts? Would you know the location whereabouts of the plane now?
For me, I don't know.
Okay.
But even though the registration number is not Nigeria registration number, but they say that is our own. So let's believe them.
And they poured water on it when it landed.
Let's believe them. Let's believe them. Meanwhile, the House has summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Auditor General for the Federation, Accountant General of the Federation over the payment of 32.5 billion naira to two companies consulting without formal records. So basically,
consulting. Yes, I like also emphasize that. Yes, consulting.
FUAD. Consulting.
Let's emphasize how people know what we're dealing with.
Okay, emphasis consulting.
How much was it for consulting, please?
32.5 billion naira.
Without any what?
No record, no formal records.
Okay, very good.
Yes, FUAD, that's where we are going to stop on that particular one, so that we can analyze it and move to other stories. So FUAD, questions are being asked.
So much on it. So for the Still Nigeria Air project, that the only thing we got was a plane that took off from Ethiopia Airlines without any form of registration in Nigeria, landed, and a fake water salute was done. And then, yes, it's a fake water salute now, because that was not an inaugural flight anyway. And then the plane had returned to Ethiopia. In fact, the information we have is that they removed that Nigeria Air from it. So basically what they did was to come and show, you know what they call Shagbeloju, just branded it and show that you get plane, and they're taking it back. And so we have paid 32 point something billion to consultants who were consulting, on that failed project. I think they need to go and drag out the former minister, immediate past minister of aviation, Adi Surika. I am not saying that it's not just drag him out. It's not going to be at the committee level. I think these are the things the EFCC has to start working on. We need to, number one, stop him from leaving the country, get him arrested, and start investigating and prosecuting him immediately on that particular project. That was an insult to all Nigerians. What happened in Nigeria? We kept asking the question, why was the former minister of aviation, like this minister, so desperate about Nigeria airfield? So it's important, because this is part of the accountability that we are talking about. So the House of Reps need to drag him out for wherever he is now as the former minister of aviation, who piloted that entire charade, to begin to answer questions. And then it's time to call the EFCC to begin to track him. He must not leave the country.
What? Okay. All right. You can check page 32 of the Punch newspaper if you like more details. It's not just the aviation sector that's being grilled, by the way. There's still investigations about, the allegations that certain amount of crude oil was sold to certain countries by certain individuals who also did not provide records of the sale. Yes. So it's a lot of investigations going there. So questions are being asked, and as more information comes through, not to worry, I will provide you with this information. Still on page 32, but a different headline. Foreign trade declines by 2.6 trillion naira over forex shortage, says the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. The total value of foreign trade has declined by 2.55 trillion as Nigeria recorded lower export within a year, according to findings by the Punch. The deputy president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Gabriel Idahosa, cited the numerous challenges faced by local manufacturers, from lack of access to foreign exchange, scarcity of raw materials, to rising energy costs as factors that have significantly restrained the manufacturing sector from reaching its full potential. FUAD, our foreign trade is starting to suffer even more. And just like I highlighted here, the deputy president of the LCCI has given us a list why this is happening. Forex, energy, specific the issues, energy raw materials, inability to get raw materials and what have you, among some of the things that are restraining manufacturing. And FUAD, you've always said it, production is something that we have to lay a lot of emphasis on, and so that our goods, our services meet the global standard of exportation, and we're able to make more money, maybe even adjust our trade policies, as a source of revenue for us, rather than constantly working on monetary policies and increasing interest rate and what have you. But I don't think that this is an endeavor that will yield any positive results because of the calamity.
You don't finish the matter. This is what we have always said, and I keep saying that solving our problem in the manufacturing sector, firing back our industries, moving from consumption to production, the popular slogan of Mr. Peter Obi, will not happen by chance.
Right.
It's going to happen by serious hard work. It will require us rolling our sleeves, buckling our shoes and doing the hard work. Tinker with our monetary policy from now till thy kingdom come. Nothing will change until we do the hard work of fixing the things that have been highlighted in this story. I leave that at that.
Right. Well, we don't have any more time, so I'll just breeze through the rest of the headlines that we have. Fortunately for us, we've been able to address every single headline, but they are reported in other papers, so we'll just go through them. Tinubu will turn economy around, says Jimoh Ibrahim. Okay. Federal government records 930 billion naira 2-month fiscal deficit, says the CBN. There's really nothing great coming out of our financial sector at this moment. That's about it for the Punch newspaper at this time. Let's just look through the Guardian. The top story here: Labour undeterred by court order. TUC demands 200,000 minimum wage. This is another story saying that despite the court's injunction, Labour does not seem to be, they don't seem like they're going to respect that particular injunction. But let's wait and see what happens. Nigeria's imports squeezed by cash scarcity falls by 25.8% year on year. So it's not just our exportation that is suffering, even the ability to import. FUAD, as you know, the tax that has been placed on goods, on individuals who are trying to import materials for their businesses,
even vehicles and all
exactly,
that,
is discouraging even importation. So we cannot export, and now people are having a hard time importing. And at this time now, 28.5% fall year on year. Unfortunately, empty streets, short businesses greet Umba's sit-at-home ban in Enugu. So the new governor, Umba, decided to ban the sit-at-home as enforced by Biafra, right? But then again, people are still afraid, apparently, for it. Even after the governor said you can come outside on Monday, all right? That particular law is over. But then people are still afraid and they're not coming out. He went throughout the state to check if people obeyed the ban that he placed on it, but empty streets, short businesses greet Umba, sit-at-home ban in Enugu.
There are two issues here.
Right.
We need to ask ourselves, are they really afraid, or to a great extent they are in solidarity with Nnamdi Kanu and the sit-at-home order? We need to be careful to really talk about these things. Because it's one thing to say, the governor says comes out and they are afraid. Or really, they may be silently doing solidarity. That look, the sit-at-home order is a form of solidarity with the dictator Nnamdi Kanu.
That's
you understand what I'm saying?
Perspective. Yeah, I mean, it did not occur to me at all, right?
It's not impossible that, look, well, why would we come out? We want our Nnamdi Kanu released. Maybe that's what is going on quietly in their minds. But yes, I agree that there might be people who want to come and who are also afraid that the government may not be able to protect them properly. Because I've seen situations where, I think in Anambra State, where it's absolutely saying, come in now, but they look, do you have what it takes to protect us if we're attacked?
Right.
So it's a two-way thing. Yes, the capacity of the governor to protect people when they come out on Monday is a bit shaky and unclear. But I must say that, look, it may just be that, look, these people too have some form of silent solidarity, with Nnamdi Kanu, and so they are obeying the sit-at-home order as a message to the government.
Right. Anyways, how proposed NLC strike may affect presidential election petition. I think this is an editorial of some kind. The Guardian, you can read it. Joe Jesus suspends strike for 21 days after parley with Tinubu. I think even the National Association of Resident Doctors have also suspended their strike. They had a meeting with the President Tinubu at this time. So we might not be seeing industrial actions at the end of the day. 1 year after attack, Owo Catholic Church remembers victims. IMF tax Nigeria on revenue generation and debt management. The same IMF that is asking us to go and borrow money and devalue our currency.
No.
Thank you for your advice.
I keep talking about this what I call this modern imperialist structure.
What
they are simply doing is they are the same people that will give you money. They are the same people that will now put pressure on you, because what they are now doing, the World Bank IMF, is that, look, they are now working seriously to put pressure on debtor nations, because most of the creditor nations want their money back. So they are the same people that, and when they borrow you this money, in their mind, they know that your politicians will steal it.
Right. FUAD. We have
You know the World Bank that is encouraging us to come and take $800 million to share to people for 5,000. They know that we are going to waste the money.
FUAD, we have
and then years after, they will now put pressure on you to come and pay.
Right.
Okay, we need to go.
We need to go. All right. Thank you so much for your participation. That's it for Trends in the Papers. Not to worry, you would have time to participate and give your opinion on these stories. 8:40, we'll be back. My name is Sage Babalola. FUAD Saheed would also be joining me, and this is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.